As you go deeper into understanding the power of altars, spiritual intelligence, and divine alignment, it debunks everything that every situation in life, from the moment you wake up to the decisions you make in your career, finances, marriage, health, and spiritual life, is influenced by unseen forces, legalities in the spiritual realm, and patterns that either support progress or perpetuate stagnation. And the critical revelation here is that repeated failures, persistent financial lack, recurring sicknesses, unfulfilled dreams, current and generational limitations are never random, but deliberate, systemic results of altar operations. And the failure to discern them is what keeps many believers in cycles of disappointment, frustration, and unfulfilled potential. Because while they work hard, pray fast, tithe, and even serve faithfully without intelligence, insight, and spiritual strategy, their efforts can at best yield temporary results, fleeting breakthroughs, or superficial victories. But the true breakthroughs, the kind that transforms families, communities, and nations, requires understanding, discernment, authority, and precise application. And it is here that love for God must intersect with relentless pursuit of knowledge, strategic spiritual action, and fearless conference thematically and response to principles that oppose progress. Because heaven operates systematically and responds to principles that oppose progress. Because heaven operates systematically and responds to principles. And ignoring them is like trying to drive a car without understanding fuel, brakes, or steering. You may move forward momentarily, but eventual failure is inevitable. And this is why the lives of many believers remain average, why ministries plateau, why businesses stagnate at break, and why health and relationship fail to flourish despite apparent devotion, sincerity, and effort. Because altar dynamics are the invisible blueprint governing outcomes. And once recognized and understood and aligned with, they become the vehicle through which permanent miracles favored. For recognized become the vehicle through which permanent miracles favored. For recognized and once become the which permanent miracle favored, which permanent miracle and abundance flow. And as you grasp this principle, it dawns on you that no amount of talent, education, connections, or natural intelligence can revive spiritual love. No amount of human effort can replace spiritual insight, and no degree of ritual without understanding can bring sustainable results. And not understanding can bring sustainable results. Because God's kingdom is built on knowledge, alignment, obedience, and execution. And the saints, patriarchs, and modern day pioneers who walk in unstoppable breakthrough do so not because they understand the patterns of heaven, because they understand the patterns of heaven, the laws of spiritual authority, and the operational power of altars. And they apply this knowledge consistently, courageously, and strategically. And this is exactly what will elevate you above temporary success to permanent victory. Not just in your personal life, but across generational lines. And as you integrate these truths, you begin to see the invisible connections between repeated delays in your finances, recurrent relational disappointments in society, and fruitful spiritual efforts and systemic limitations in society. And you realize that these are indicators of altar influence, and your response must therefore be intelligent, deliberate, and powerful. Because ignorance will cost more than knowledge, and failure will last longer than strategy. And the first step in this transformational journey is cultivating an unshakable love for God that transcends comfort, performance, and expectation, and love that persists through trials, testing, and opposition. Because without this foundation, no knowledge, prayer, or authority can be sustained. No knowledge, prayer, or authority can be sustained. No knowledge, prayer, or authority can be sustained for movers and expectation. No knowledge, prayer, or authority can be sustained. Knowledge, authority can be sustained. Knowledge, prayer, authority can And this love fuels every act of obedience, every application of intelligence, every confrontation with demonic altars, and every establishment of a righteous altar. And once this love is anchored, you move to the next stage, acquisition of spiritual intelligence, which is understanding the unseen realm, interpreting patterns, discerning altars, and knowing how to negotiate with heaven's authority. And this intelligence is not acquired overnight or through passive participation in religious activities. It requires study, meditation, reflection, and mentorship under those who work in mastery of altar dynamics. Because the kingdom of God is revealed to those who seek with the right heart, ask with strategic intent, and knock with perseverance. And as you acquire this intelligence, you gain insight into how repeated failures are not coincidences, but legal authorizations of evil altars. How unexpected losses, sudden conflicts, and recurring delays are signals, not random events, and how blessings, favor, and sudden breakthroughs are responses to properly aligned altars, righteous platforms, and covenant obedience. And it is this understanding that allows believers to operate with precision rather than randomness, to execute strategies rather than gamble on faith without insight, and to experience consistent, unstoppable, and sustainable breakthroughs rather than fleeting victories, rather than fleeting victories, rather than fleeting victories. And the reality is that most people live in a reactive mode, constantly responding to circumstances, scrambling to fix problems, and hoping for results. But the truly empowered believer moves proactively, identifies the source, dismantles the obstacle, establishes a righteous platform, establishes a righteous platform, establishes a righteous platform, establishes a righteous platform, is platform, Ponzi is black to brace call form, and the color at the dan is platform, the Ponzi, and calls forth heaven's response with authority. Because authority is not given arbitrarily. It is earned through understanding, obedience, and correct application of divine principles. And every repeated failure in life, when analyzed carefully, reveals an opportunity for strategic intervention, a chance to break a demonic altar, a platform to establish a covenant altar, and a moment to create continuity with heaven that ensures future victory. And this understanding transforms prayer from wishful into strategic warfare, from wishful into strategic warfare, giving from obligation into covenant investment, and service from routine into platform activation. And as you embrace this reality, your entire approach to life changes. No longer are you a passive participant, a vacant, no longer vulnerable to repeated generational patterns, but a warrior, a strategist, a master of your destiny, and a partner with God in the enforcement of His law. And the next principle to master is the ability to dismantle existing demonic altars. Because these structures often operate unnoticed, generating recurring cycles of loss, disease, poverty, relational failure, and limitational failure, and limitational failure, and limitational failure, and limitational failure, and limitation, the misstructures of loss, disease, poverty. Relational failure, and limitational 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 failure of failure. And understanding how to identify them through patterns, historical repetition, spiritual impressions, prophetic insight, and revealed knowledge is crucial. Because once the altar is identified, it can be dismantled through prayer, declaration, spiritual authority, covenant, realignment. Why? And consistent application of heavenly law. And after dismantling, establishing a righteous altar ensures continuity, stability, and access to heaven's unlimited resources, because an altar is not just a platform for warfare, but also a conduit for blessings, favor, protection, intelligence, a blessing barrel, creativity, influence, and supernatural manifestation. And as you build this capacity in your life, you gain the ability to release miracles, blessings, and favor, not just for yourself, but for families, communities, territories, and nations. And the transformative effect is unstoppable because it operates in both the spiritual and physical realms simultaneously, creating a ripple of prosperity, freedom, health, and opportunity that defies natural limitations. And when this understanding merges with the love for God, spiritual intelligence, strategic action, and fearless execution, your life becomes a testimony, a force, a legacy, and a living altar, a living platform of influence through which God's kingdom is enforced on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the secret behind the lives of the most effective saints, prophets, and pioneers in history. From Abraham, Joseph, Daniel, to Solomon, and to modern day believers who walk in dominion, influence, and unstoppable favor. And once you fully embrace this truth, your life will never be the same, because chains fall, generational curses are broken, favor surrounds you, opportunities align, and the impossible becomes routine. And this is how ordinary believers become extraordinary, how temporary victories become permanent, and how heaven's resources become accessible at every level of life. And no longer will you be held back by ignorance, fear, limitation, or delay, because now you understand the secret of altars, the power of strategic application, and the principles of spiritual law. And your destiny shifts from ordinary to legendary, from struggle to victory, from limitation to legacy, and from prayer without result to unstoppable manifestation. Because love, intelligence, alignment, action, and authority create an unstoppable combination that reshapes life, generations, and nations.